Many students go there, they overstay their welcome, they apply for a visa again, and they find excuses to stay in Australia. Many don't go to foreign countries with the aim of studying and coming back. They want to go to foreign countries to go there and settle down there permanently, become citizens. If you've got to pay $1,600, so be it. I don't think it matters to anybody at all. Anybody who's looking to completely, settle down in Australia. You increase $5,000 and you expect it to be earth-shattering. I'm sorry. Clearly the Australians aren't thinking. This is not going to deter anybody. If you want to be a part of Canada, become a Canadian in letter and spirit. Be an asset to the country. Don't become a liability. Justin Trudeau is already a liability. You'll become another one then. Jai Hind, friends. I'm Major Gaurav Arya and you're watching the Chanakya Dialogues English. Like this video, subscribe to our channel and don't forget to press the bell icon. Now, Australia has recently changed its visa policy. There are too many illegal immigrants coming to Australia, and this specially is targeted at students. Not to say that they're illegal, but the fact of the matter is many students go there, they overstay their welcome, they apply for a visa again, and they find excuses to stay in Australia. Now, this is a problem that Canada is facing, the US is facing, the UK is facing, and Australia is facing. I'm sure many other Western countries must be facing the same problem. And it's something not very comfortable to say as an Indian. Many of these students are Indians. Many don't go to foreign countries with the aim of studying and coming back. They want to go to foreign countries to go there and settle down there permanently, become citizens. That is the entire idea, of students going to Australia. Now, for example, the visa fee for international students in Australia has increased from an earlier of Australian dollar 710 to $1,600. I repeat, earlier it was $710, now it is $1,600. I don't know how effective this policy is going to be, because when people go to Australia, I don't think that they're going there, at least a vast majority, I'm not talking about all the students, a vast majority go there to settle down permanently. And I don't think a few dollars are going to deter them, right? If it's a question of paying instead of $710, if you've got to pay $1,600, so be it. I don't think it matters to anybody at all. Anybody who's looking to completely, settle down in Australia, I don't think that person is going to be, deterred by a few dollars here and there. And they're saying that the new structure aims to manage record migration numbers, that have increased the housing market pressures. And if you see, what Australia is saying with respect, and especially to Canada, because Canada has exactly the same problem. Canada is saying that there are so many students, so many immigrants, that the housing market in Canada, it's so difficult for a Canadian to get a house. In fact, it's become an election issue, and Justin Trudeau is getting a hammering of a lifetime because of it. Canadians cannot buy houses. And there's a Reddit user which I have quoted earlier, and I'm going to quote that person again at the end of this video. What he has done is that this is essentially what everyday Canadians feel. They feel that their way of life has been hijacked. All thanks to good friend Justin Trudeau. The way of life has been hijacked. You allow everybody to come into your country. And even though they say that 40% or more of the students in Canada are of Indian origin, I would still say that you need to ensure that whoever comes into your country goes back. There should be, the law should be followed under any conditions. You can't have the law not being followed. Everybody will come with a sob story. Everybody will say that, I'm being discriminated against in my own country, because they know that that is the key to getting the Canadian passport, and they'll make up their own story. And this is not to say that there aren't genuine cases. Of course there are genuine cases. Of course there are genuine cases. But there are 10 times more fake cases, and Canada has to figure out, Australia, the US, the UK, they have to figure out a way of being smarter than these people who are running this, human trafficking racket. Now, as far as the markets are concerned, they are under a lot of pressure, especially the housing markets. And this policy of increased visa fees is effective from 1st of July, that is today. Recent regulations prohibit visitor visa holders and students with temporary graduate visas from applying onshore for a student visa. Now, it's going to be more difficult to stay back. The government said it was also closing loopholes in visa rules that allowed foreign students to continuously extend their stay in Australia. What happens is that they extend their stay in Australia on one excuse to the other after the number of students on a second. Now, I'm repeating this, after the number of students on a second or subsequent student visa spiked by over 30% to more than 150,000. Can you imagine? In 2022-2023, it spiked to more than 150,000, where students will keep on coming back and saying, hey, this is my excuse, extend my visa. And everybody's extending their visa. Nobody wants to go back. And this is not just an Indian problem. It's a problem from across the world. People just want to go settle because they feel that they're getting a better life, which is necessarily not true. Which is necessarily not true. There is a concept in their mind, right? Now, another thing that the Australian government has done is English language requirements have been tightened in March, right? March of this year. And the amount of savings international students need to get a visa, it was raised in May to Australian $29,710 from Australian $24,505. This is a joke, obviously, right? You increase $5,000 and you expect it to be earth-shattering. I'm sorry. I mean, clearly the Australians aren't thinking this is not going to deter anybody. It might be a temporary speed breaker, a bump in the road, but it's not a wall, right? It's going to deter no one at all. And this was the second increase in about 7 months. Applying fee for a student visa for Australia is far more expensive than competing countries like the US and Canada, where they cost about $185 for US $185, and in Canada it is Canadian $150, respectively. Official data released in March showed net immigration rose 60%. Now, these are frightening figures for a country like Australia, which hardly has any population. There are a handful of people in that country called Australia. It's a massive, massive country, far bigger than India in its size geographically, but the population is very less, and immigration rose 60% to a record 548,000 in the year, 2023. And ladies and gentlemen, the statement of Claire O'Neill, the Home Affairs Minister, is that the changes will help restore integrity to our international education system and create a migration system which is fairer, smaller, and better able to deliver for Australia. Now, there are a lot of factors here, ladies and gentlemen, that I'd like to tell you about, right? And the factors are chiefly that I guess a lot of students have found a way to game the system. I'll be as honest as I can, and I'm absolutely against this. I have relatives staying in the US, right? I have relatives staying in Europe, okay? And everybody is entitled to go and settle down and do business and raise their family anywhere in the world, and that is not what I'm speaking out against. I don't care. I pretty much don't care. You want to settle down in the UK, that's your problem. You want to go to the US, Australia, New Zealand, France, wherever, your problem. Go ahead. But don't go illegally, because many of these people who go illegally, many of them, I'm not blaming the students here, I'm saying generally, what they do is they create a sob story. They create a fake narrative about their own country. They lie about their own country. A lot of people who go to Canada will say that, the federal government or the central government is against them and they're chasing them, and we fear that we might be eliminated by somebody. Typical Hollywood stories out of thin air. Or somebody would say, I'm a political activist. I'm a political activist. I'm an environmental activist, and I feel that people are going to finish me off or eliminate me. They come up with these weird stories. Somebody says, that XYZ person has come to the UK because he is gay and they sort of, they kill gays in India. Or somebody will say that he wanted to have an intercaste marriage, but he's fearful that the government would eliminate it. Why would the government of India eliminate anybody because he had an intercaste marriage? Get married, don't get married, how does anybody care? But this is exactly the kind of sob stories that the Western world loves to buy, because there is a reason. A, it is genuinely a society that cares about people. That is one part that we'll have to admit. And secondly, it's also that we provide safe harbor. That feeling of moral superiority, that we provide safe harbor, and we are the people who are responsible for giving people a good life. I want to tell the government of Australia and the government of New Zealand and the government of the UK, America, wherever, you're not responsible for anybody. The government of the United States of America is responsible for Americans only. You're not responsible for what happens in the rest of the world. Please. Please. The government of UK, you're responsible for what happens inside the United Kingdom, which happens to Britishers or the people of the UK. You're not responsible for something that happens in Pakistan or something that happens in Palestine. No. No. Today, a lot of people, especially Muslim refugees in the UK, have started blaming the government, that you are siding with Israel in its war against Hamas. It's become an election issue in the UK. But will the same people also blame Bahrain? Will the same people also blame Jordan? Will the same people also blame Saudi Arabia, who have been actively helping Israel? No, they will not. Because in those countries, you're not allowed to speak. So what they do is they come to these Western countries where there is freedom, where there is the constitution, where there is rule of law, and then create absolute chaos in the system. That way, I think Indian students and Indian citizens are far more law-abiding. They respect the law. They like to integrate. They are generally not involved in crime. And so I think that's a better deal as far as Indians are concerned. Now, there is a letter going around in Reddit in which a Canadian, he blames the entire mess in Australia on Indian students, right? I think he's being a little too harsh, but you really can't fault the guy, because Canada is in the midst of a huge housing crisis. And what has happened is that a large part of the blame can safely be apportioned to a lot of students going from this part of the world. So this Reddit user says that the housing crisis is essentially because the immigration system has been manipulated, and he claims that Indian students in Canada are causing a housing crisis. Apart from that, he calls for mass deportation. He says that people need to be thrown out, asserting that 99% of these students do not meet Canada's skill requirements. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know about the 99%, but this person says it because his post is going really viral. And the user argues that these individuals should not be considered students, as they allegedly game the system, violating their commitment to leave after studies. That is what I've been telling people. 90%, I'm not saying all the students, a vast majority, let me not even say 90%, because I don't know. It could be 85, it could be 70, but a vast majority of students that I have spoken to plan to settle down. And there is no problem. There is no problem. You're a student, you want to settle down in New Zealand or Australia, that's absolutely fine. That is absolutely fine. Just follow the rules. Don't game the system. Follow the rules, integrate into society. If you want to be a part of Canada, become a Canadian in letter and spirit. Be an asset to the country. Don't become a liability. Justin Trudeau is already a liability. You'll become another one then. And study permits have become invalid 90 days post-study completion. I'm talking about Canada here. After the permit's expiry date, to study in Canada or to stay in Canada post-study, students must maintain valid status. There have been other things also in like, for example, in UK, Sunak's Rwanda asylum plan. There are elections in UK. I don't know what is happening and what's going to happen in the future. Most likely Labour comes to power. I don't know. But the fact of the matter is, slowly and slowly, these countries that were extremely welcoming of people from outside, extremely welcoming, right? Welcome to our country, and don't worry if there is a problem in your country. Here's your passport, and here is your social security number, and welcome and settle down, and we'll give you a job. We'll look after you. We'll give you unemployment benefits. We'll take care of your kids, their schooling, etc., etc., everything. Now, suddenly these countries are feeling cheated because too many people have gamed the system. And this is my message to all the students. Everybody, especially students going from India. Study well. You know, many students, I feel, and I'm told, you know, in many countries they're allotted, I think, 20 hours in a month or a week or something like that. There are 20 hours in a specific time frame that they can work. They far exceed that. They miss their classes and they want to earn money, earning a few dollars every hour, right? And then they find ways and means to extend their stay. Don't do that. If you want citizenship of, let's say, Australia, because we are talking about Australia, or if you want citizenship of the UK, there is always the right way to do it. It is the difficult way, but follow the difficult way. If it is the right way, do it the right way. And those very people will welcome you, they'll honor you, and they'll respect you. Don't cut corners. This is my message to all the students out there. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching this video. And if you like this video, press the like button, subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to press the bell icon. Jai Hind, Vande Mataram, Bharat Mata Ki Jai.